I posted this on R Pro Revenge because everyone I know says what I did was overkill. But after everything my parents put me through, I still sleep like a baby. If you disagree, that's on you. Backstory. I was 17 when my mom called to say Grandma Lena's lymphoma had come back, and she needed someone to help with rides, food, and night checks. My parents both worked full-time and couldn't spare the vacation days, so I volunteered to move 2 hours away to stay with Grandma for what the doctors thought would be a summer. I packed a duffel, kissed my golden retriever Cooper on the nose, and promised I'd be back before school started. Grandma's treatment dragged into the fall. Mornings began at 5 a.m. with anti-nausea meds, ended after midnight when I changed sheets soaked by cold sweats. I learned to calculate ferry schedules, to bargain with lab techs for faster CBC results, and to smile while insurance reps transferred me through phone mazes. I submitted senior essays from plastic hospital chairs and did calculus homework on the oncology Wi-Fi. My guidance counselor mailed transcripts to scholarship committees with notes explaining my off-campus clinical rotation. Every Saturday, I video chatted Cooper. Dad would hold the phone while Cooper wagged and squeaked, dropping whatever toy he'd been carrying. Mom's voice floated off screen. "Tell Lauren we're fine, just tired." I believed her. In January, Grandma rang the bell for remission. I drove back bursting with plans. Walk Cooper on the river trail, fill out dorm paperwork, maybe catch the spring formal with my best friend Jess. I unlocked the front door, and Cooper didn't come barreling down the hall. His bowls were gone. His bed was gone. The house smelled like floor polish and betrayal. Mom was in the kitchen counting cash into envelopes labeled loan, utilities, and vacation. She looked up and said, "Oh, you're earlier than the GPS said." I asked where Cooper was. She said, calm as reading a grocery list, that they'd had to let him go. It turned out let him go meant sold him to a backyard breeder for $3,000. They'd seen a Craigslist ad offering cash for intact purebreds. Apparently, my parents decided tuition savings were more important than the mutt they'd promised to feed while I was gone. I ran outside and dry-heaved in the driveway. Dad followed, arms folded, repeating that Cooper was just a dog and college was expensive. I didn't punch him, but only because the mailbox was closer and less illegal to kick. He sighed like I was being dramatic and actually tried to hand me $200 for books. The gesture was gasoline on a bonfire. I shredded the bills into confetti that floated across the lawn like dead ideals. That night I boxed my clothes, trophies, and laptop. I left behind the bed frame, the childhood photo albums, the parents. Jess's family took me in until dorms opened. My parents texted twice about overreacting and family sacrifices. I blocked them. Phase 1. Find Cooper. The microchip company confirmed the chip was still registered to me, but the breeder's number answered a non-working line. I spent Fridays combing rescue pages, phoning vets, leaving my info at shelters within a 100-mile radius. I made color flyers and stuck them on every corkboard from gas stations to campus cathedrals. I joined Golden Retriever Facebook groups, refreshing until my eyes burned. Some nights I'd dream I heard his happy grunt and wake up with a wet pillow. False leads poured in. A groomer sent photos of a male golden with identical freckles, wrong tail pattern. A shelter in Memphis found a chipped dog, but the digits were transposed. Each time my heartbeat surged, then crashed back into the hopeless rhythm of statistics. Meanwhile, I lived on ramen, work-study paychecks, and rage. Rage paid dividends. I aced mechanics because breaking forces apart felt personal, and I learned contract law to draft airtight pet custody clauses for the student legal clinic. Professors thought I was driven, Actually, I was haunted by a wagging tail. Junior year, a rescue coordinator emailed that a golden with Cooper's chip had been surrendered by a couple divorcing in Nashville, 7 hours away. I skipped class, rented a stick-shift Civic, and white-knuckled it through storm cells to the shelter. The second I said "Coop," a hoarse bark cracked down the corridor, and this slightly grayer, still perfect doofus leapt into my knees. He smelled like shelter bleach and stale kibble, and I've never cried harder. The surrender packet listed the breeder's name, giving me a legal breadcrumb. Turns out the breeder had flipped Cooper to 3 homes in 2 years. One receipt showed an auction cage number like he was livestock. I took photos of everything. Cooper came back to campus with me. My roommates signed off on the landlord's pet addendum without question. That semester I built a spreadsheet. Money my parents got, travel costs, vet bills, boarding fees paid by the divorcing couple, and punitive damages allowed under our state's pet theft statute. With printouts, receipts, and the chip registration, I filed in small claims court. My parents didn't bother showing up. The judge awarded me $8,646 plus filing fees and interest. I recorded the judgment in their county and put a lien on their Honda. They paid within a month. The check memo read, "Hope you're happy." I was. Phase 2. Build a life that didn't include them. I graduated, landed a civil engineering job 3 states away, married Jess, and in due course gave birth to a gorgeous hurricane named Maya. Cooper aged into white-faced serenity, adopting the role of living teddy bear and crumb vacuum. We had nightly cuddle piles, Saturday park rituals, and 1,000 photos of Maya putting plastic tiaras on the world's most patient dog. Grandma Lena visited twice a year, slipping me $100 bills for emergencies, and whispering that my parents were telling church friends I'd cut them off for no reason. I emailed her a PDF of the court judgment. She switched parishes. Then last winter, Dad emailed from an account I hadn't blocked, a gushing 3-paragraph apology that segued into, "We'd love to meet our granddaughter." Mom added a postscript that she had knitted a blanket. I stared at the screen like it was a rattlesnake wearing pearls. Jess said we could ignore them. I decided I wasn't done. I spent a week drafting a response. I thanked them for the blanket offer and said Maya would love it. In fact, they could hand-deliver it if they'd agree to 3 simple conditions. Condition 1. They were to donate $3,000, the amount they'd gotten for Cooper, to the State Humane Society in Maya's name and send me the receipt. Condition 2. They would meet us at a neutral location on a specific Saturday, the county fairgrounds during the annual Rescue Pet Adoption Day. Lots of people, lots of dogs, press coverage, perfect. Condition 3. They were to sign a written apology acknowledging that selling Cooper was theft, that I had covered all expenses for Grandma alone, and that their actions severed our parental relationship. Notarized on site, copies for both parties. I wrote that refusing any condition would cancel the meeting permanently. 2 days later, Dad replied that this sounded extreme, but they were willing to heal. He offered $300 instead of $3,000 and asked to meet at a restaurant. I reiterated the terms. Silence for a month. Then a PDF receipt arrived. Donation made. They accepted the location and time. Fine. Revenge requires witnesses. I contacted the Humane Society coordinator and, without naming names, explained that 2 attendees would be handing me a formal apology. The coordinator loved the idea of turning it into a micro-fundraiser. Every apology signed, a board member would snap a photo with the "Forgiveness Starts with Pets" banner. I said sure, as long as I could veto publication. She agreed. The Saturday arrived bright and brisk. Cooper, now 10, still pranced when his harness came out. Maya, 4, wore a shirt that read, "Dog's Best Friend." Jess handled logistics while I tried to keep my hands from shaking. Not nerves, anticipation. My parents pulled up in the same Honda I'd lined, faces tight. Mom clutched a pastel gift bag. Dad carried an envelope. As they approached, Cooper let out a soft growl. He didn't lunge, just bristled like he remembered. We exchanged obligatory hellos. I accepted the notarized statement, actual gold seal and all. I skimmed enough to see they'd admitted the theft and conceded that I owed them no future contact. Dad's jaw twitched. Then I said, loud enough for nearby volunteers, "Thank you for donating and signing. There's one last piece." I handed them 2 visitor badges reading, "Ask us why pet theft hurts families." The Humane Society coordinator clicked over with a DSLR. Flash. Parents frozen like deer. A few onlookers tilted heads, whispers spreading. Dad muttered, "Is this necessary?" I replied, "Upsu. Absolutely. People should know actions have consequences." Mom tried to give Maya the blanket, but Maya hugged Cooper instead. Jess steered our daughter away to meet adoptable puppies. I let the coordinator guide my parents to a booth where a local paper was interviewing donors about responsible pet ownership. On cue, the clipboard journalist asked Dad how he felt about supporting anti-theft legislation. He stuttered something about learning experiences. The reporter thanked him, snapped another photo, and moved on. We lasted 15 minutes before Dad hissed that they'd been ambushed. I reminded him I could have pressed criminal charges years ago. Mom's eyes watered. She asked if this meant they'd never see Maya again. I said, "That's up to future Maya. Today she's busy loving the dog you sold." They left without the blanket. 2 weeks later, the county paper ran a piece titled, "Local Donors Back Tougher Penalties for Pet Theft." The photo featured my parents holding the apology document next to Cooper. Their names were printed in the caption. Facebook did the rest. Old neighbors, church friends, even Grandma Lena, now healthy and living her best life, flooded their timeline with comments. "I can't believe you sold their dog. Shame on you. Love seeing justice served." My parents deactivated within 48 hours. Legally, they can't retract the apology. I filed it with the original court case as an addendum. The Humane Society received another surge of donations after the article. We sent thank you cards from Maya and Cooper. What really kept the fire stoked was the paper trail. Between classes, I haunted the records office downtown, pulling every public filing the breeder had ever submitted. His kennel was a 15 by 20 metal shed with no occupancy permit and an unpaid trash bill taller than the building. He'd been cited twice for unlicensed auctions. I scanned the citations, highlighted the parts mentioning Cooper's microchip, and stapled them into a folder titled Exhibit Karma. Service of process became its own side quest. To haul my parents into court, I needed proof they'd received the summons. Certified mail bounced. Dad apparently refused the envelope. So I hired a gig economy server, a veteran named Carla, who viewed evasive defendants as cardio. She camped outside their address at dawn, accepted a pancake breakfast invitation from the neighbor, and when Dad finally retrieved the paper from his driveway in slippers, she strolled over and said, "Delivery from your daughter." She filmed the entire exchange for court. During depositions, my parents tried the gift defense, claiming they'd intended to send me the money from Cooper's sale. Carla's body cam footage showing Dad tearing up the summons on camera torpedoed their credibility. The judge's eyes actually rolled. The clerk couldn't hide a smirk. I put the judgment money into a high-interest account I nicknamed the Cooper Fund. It paid for his post-rescue dental work, a canine water treadmill for his joints, and eventually, obedience trainer certification courses. Yes, my stolen dog became a therapy volunteer, visiting pediatric wards with Maya as junior handler. Kids who'd lost hair to chemo found comfort in combing his golden ears, full circle from Grandma Lena's ward. Speaking of Grandma, she called weekly to report how our story traveled the rural grapevine. Apparently, Dad tried framing the lawsuit as my ungrateful rebellion, but the clerk from Small Claims sang like a canary at church potluck. Suddenly, everyone remembered the summer I sponge-bathed a chemo patient while my parents posted beach selfies. The divorcing couple who'd surrendered Cooper sent a heartfelt letter when they learned he was home. They hadn't known about the microchip. They'd bought him at a county fair, trusting the breeder's lies. They enclosed snapshots of Cooper wearing a tiny life jacket on their boat, explaining they were relieved he'd landed somewhere permanent. Their apology was the easiest to accept. Sometimes people are fooled. Sometimes people do the fooling. When I proposed, Jess asked only one favor, that Cooper be ring bearer in a bow tie. The venue manager tried a no-pets rule until I produced letters from 2 physicians testifying to Cooper's therapeutic status, plus a politely worded ADA note. Bow tie prevailed. He trotted down the aisle, dropped the velvet pouch, and sneezed on the minister's shoes. Best wedding photo ever. The knock-on effects of the judgment followed them for years. Their credit score dipped. The lien showed up on every mortgage refinance. Mom's hobby of reselling thrift store finds turned sour because community Facebook admins banned her for policy violations under the new No Pet Thieves clause, an informal rule born from angry adopters. Dad applied for a promotion, but the background check surfaced the civil judgment. Company policy flagged any employee with an outstanding court ruling related to theft. He stayed on the night shift. For those thinking my response to the reunion invitation was cold, understand I tested every boundary first. I asked if they'd breached the microchip registry to update contact information. They hadn't. I asked whether they'd reimbursed Grandma for the groceries I bought with my student loans. They laughed the question off. Those laughs sealed their fate. Planning the fairground showdown was almost therapeutic. The adoption event promised high foot traffic, news vans, and a public address system. My spreadsheet evolved into a run of show. 10 o'clock a.m. arrival, 10:05 bathroom break for Maya, 10:10 signing of apology, 10:12 photo op, 10:15 controlled exit. I even arranged a backup handler in case Cooper needed a stress break. Engineering brain meets emotional justice. You might assume the public embarrassment was my endgame, but it was really a safeguard. People behave better under lights and cameras. The cameras ensured no last-minute tantrum or guilt trip would spoil Maya's day. If Mom had tried tears or Dad had tried shouting, 5 volunteers and 1 deputy were on call. Spoiler: humiliation proved an excellent muzzle. My parents' lawyer later suggested that a trust fund for Maya might re-establish goodwill. I declined, noting that trust bought with hush money isn't trust, it's rental. Besides, Maya already has a college plan funded by boring, responsible saving and the occasional freelance bridge design gig I pick up. She won't need bribes from people who once priced her dog like second-hand furniture. Therapists talk about closure. I don't believe in it as a single door slam. I believe in daily choices. Every time I vacuum dog hair off the couch or pack Maya's lunch with a sticker that says Cooper approved, I choose the family who chose me back. And every time my parents hit send on a guilt-laced email that vanishes into my spam folder, the universe hits them with a mute button made by their own past. Still, accountability matters. The notarized apology sits in a fireproof box along with birth certificates and property deeds, documents that define ownership and origin. If I ever doubt my memory, I have ink and seal to remind me that what happened was real, adjudicated, and paid for. So when acquaintances suggest, "Life's too short," or "blood is thicker," I offer my standard reply. Blood may be thicker than water, but loyalty is thicker than both. And loyalty in my house wears fur.